Thanks for staying with us. So it feels common for Africans to shy away from discussing the issue of will or even considering to think about it, because we always assume that asking about your will or inheritance is to be written, or it's like you're saying somebody's about to die, and you don't want to be that person who is ready to die. Joining us on the show is Mr. Rotimi Obende. He's a member of the First Bank of Nigeria Quest Trustees team, and he is responsible for strategy development in the FBNN Quest Trustees. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you very much.
It's good to have you, and I'm told that your name is actually Obende, not Obembe.
It's actually Obende.
Obende. Oh,
Obende.
Good to have you, Obende. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right. Wills and inheritance are something many don't like to talk about. My personal story is that, even at the point of when my mother was diagnosed with the illness, and the reality was coming to our face that, okay, this might be, we didn't want to accept it, but I tried to ask her the conversation, okay, what would you like? And she looked at me and didn't say anything, and just felt like in my mind, I just kept my mind, I just zipped up. I don't think that I'm thinking that So it's a story that we don't want to talk about.
Yeah.
So how do we begin to plan for our wills, and when do we start to plan for those wills?
Okay, so it's not really about wills, it's about estate planning. And estate planning is the structure that you put in place today that helps to minimize crises. There are a lot of crises out there. Now, so when you talk about estate planning, you then decide that there are basically two tools that you can use. You can decide to use a will, which we all traditionally know, and a trust. Now, in talking about a will, a lot of people, and you said it rightly, first thing is that people will think that you want me to die. But we found out that when you start to plan, the reality actually dawns on you, because there are a lot of things that you need to consider if you have children, and if they are minors. What we see in African setting is, irrespective of who acquired the asset, you will be shocked that the family, if it's a man and a woman involved, and it's the man that passes away, the family immediately comes in and they take over everything, leaves her with nothing. So everybody needs to start to think about it. It's a conversation that we are willing to have, and we are asking everybody to start to actively have those conversations.
So you call it...
Sorry, Mary, this is interesting to me, because what happens when if the man even writes a will, there are times when the family will still come and then they will just nullify the will, or the will not see the light of day. They will still take over. So in that kind of situation, what will the woman do, the wife do? Because there are a lot of times when the will or no will, they will come and dabaru everything. The wife is left with nothing.
So it's important to understand the two tools, and when you talk about using the two tools, to be able to use it very well. In a number of cases, what we see people do is that they name either their wife, their spouses, or family members as executors. You need to start to think about engaging professionals, institutions. So I'll give you an example. Imagine if an institution like FBN Quest Trustees, everybody knows, comes in as the executor, and family members come and say they want to take over the properties. They can't do that because they will be dealing with an institution. So we need to have that shift from using individuals as executors and start to use institutions. That way, you're dealing with a corporate organization. I can assure you that you are dealing with a bigger elephant in the room than if it's just the wife. Don't also forget. Thank you. Don't also forget that at the initial stage, the woman is demoralized because she's considering and wondering, how do I first take care of this loss that I'm experiencing? And so that's why it is then important to also have a trust in place. Let me quickly explain what a trust will do for you. Unlike a will that kicks in after the demise of the testator being the person that wrote the will, the trust comes in immediately it is executed. So in the lifetime of the settlor, that's the creator of the trust arrangement. So for example, you decide you want to create a trust, have a trust in place. You then fund the trust kicks in. A lot of your assets are held by another party known as the trustee. So when family members come, just to go back to your story, they see that properties that were bought, they thought were bought in the name of the man. They suddenly realized that it's bought in the name of a trust arrangement that had nothing to do with either the name of the man or the name of the wife. So I'll give you an example. I can set up a trust and call it laptop trust, buy all the properties in this world. I then name my wife and my kids as beneficiaries. So when family members come, they start to search for documents. They see that, this man did not even own anything. I'll give you an example. Michael Jackson. During Michael Jackson's time, he set up a trust. When he passed away, Michael Jackson named his mom as the trust protector, meaning the person that would take care of the children because they were minors, and then named 3 of his children as beneficiaries. Michael Jackson dad went to court 3 or 4 times just to challenge that process because he was not named in the trust arrangement, so he did not benefit anything before he passed on. So you can actually create a trust that kicks in your lifetime, put all your assets there. It prevents family members from coming and thinking that they own everything.
Yes, so, you know, I'm listening to you and talking about Michael Jackson, and then there's a Nigerian watch and it's like, I'm not Michael Jackson, I don't have all this sort of money. Are you saying, but I believe I have potential. So at what stage should I start thinking about this trust? Is it when I have made it or on my way to making it?
You need to start thinking about it today. The truth is, all of us are millionaires in our own right. And it will shock you that for as little as 1 million people fight over it. So by the time you check your net worth, you will realize that you have enough assets that people, you think, they're already planning on what to do about it. So it's important that you start today. We normally say at FBN Quest Trustees, when you start to work, because you have pension that somebody's... I do apologize, dreaming about. Family members want to take over it. You have assets that, whether it's 1 property or 2 properties, if you follow the newspapers, a lot of the ones you review this morning, you see that family members actually fight over 1 property, over 2 properties. There's also the aspect of culture. Some people believe that in some culture, although the Supreme Court has set that aside, that female children should not benefit. So if I have female children, I need to consciously have a plan in place such that nobody comes tomorrow and says they won't have anything.
Nima.
So I'm listening to you and I'm just happy that, you know, this solution has come, because where you have minors, you need a protector that even you don't trust sometimes within family. So I would like to see you to elaborate on how, if I had a trust, for instance, and my trust protector was someone even I did not trust, who was covetous and is approaching and trying to, how do you do that? How do you deal with that trust protector in between? Okay, so there are 2 things. They come now anyway, they'll bring the child.
Okay, thank you. There are 2 things when it comes to trust protector. In a trust arrangement, the trust protector essentially does not have access to your assets or your funds. What they basically do is interface with the trustee and ensure that the trustee is carrying out your own instructions, everything that is stated in the trust deed. So if, for example, you say, I want 1 million given to my wife as monthly allowances, the trust protector ensures that that is done. The second thing is don't use an individual. If it's practically possible, again, depending on your net worth, use an institution. So, for example, if your trust protector decides to travel to Canada and leaving your children or the beneficiaries at their mercy, it becomes very difficult.
Or worst case, where they bring, okay, this is, let's say your beneficiary of your trust is your wife, and your trust protector is your brother. The family holds a meeting and tells the wife, Nishombe, when they give you the check, pass it. At that point, what can FBN Quest do in between?
For FBN Quest, it starts from the process of setting up the trust, and all of these conversations are part of what we put into structuring whatever offering we're asking you to adopt. Now, the way the trust works is I can state up front that on a monthly basis, do this, pay school fees if I decide to create an education trust arrangement, or provide monthly allowances for beneficiaries. That way, the money goes straight into the spouse's account. And because it's a trust arrangement, a trust is private and confidential. So even family members are not aware of the creation of that arrangement. Now, if you have named your brother, or if I've named my brother as the trust protector, he only knows that my wife is receiving so and so amount. Now, it's now for the wife to come to us and say that I'm having this peculiar situation. This, my in-law is prying too much into our activities. What can we do? We can then restructure it such that instead of her getting it into that personal account that the brother knows about, we can create some other structure that helps.
Can I ask this question? Can you give us an example of a brand or a body that can actually help Nigerians have an inheritance without hassles?
I'll clearly ask you to FBN Quest Trustees, and that's because we've been in the business for more than 45 years, and in helping clients put a structure in place is key, that they understand that you are dealing with an institution that's been there for that length of time. Now, FBN Quest Trustee is a subsidiary of FBN Holdings, and you know FBN Holdings has been in the business for more than...
The elephant in the building.
So,
because of the very personal trust, we've had issues where we'd hear people who have bank accounts, and when they pass on, it's the bankers that sort of take over the account. The family never know anything about it. So in this case, how does the family become aware?
Yes, so it's private and confidential because it's not open to the public. So how does the family then become aware? The trust protector, and that's why it's key that you know you are nominating as your trust protector, is the one that would then actually approach FBN Quest Trustees to say, we know that he left a plan in place. Now, you can also tell your wife or husband, or the beneficiaries to say, to the extent that I have done something, if anything happens to me, please go and meet these people. Rotimi Obende has been my go-to person at FBN Quest Trustees. So if anything happens, please go and meet him. Now, we do advise. Please do not tell them about the content of what you have.
Vague as possible.
Be vague.
You know, it is interesting. Okay, go ahead, Mike. Let me let you go.
Yeah, because you said, I have a different question, but you said Rotimi Obende. But what if Rotimi Obende leaves?
He locates to Canada.
Protector himself.
And he locates the trust is still there. FBN Trust, but
the account
my own accounts officer has now relocated to Canada.
FBN Trust approach a trust.
What will happen now?
Sorry,
because that's
not seeing you, but your family.
Okay, so that's why an institution is always better. It's like a barrack, or like the relationship between the soldier and the barrack. The soldier can be transferred anywhere.
Soldier go.
Thank you. But the barrack remains. So FBN Quest Trustees remains. Rotimi can decide if he wants to go to Canada. Now, when Rotimi leaves, somebody else takes over. So that relationship will not be lost. So the assumption is that by the time Rotimi Obende leaves, you have not passed away. So the new relationship manager will get in touch with you.
I'm so happy about this conversation because I've always said it on the show several times that my grandfather died in 1976. And so my mother died, she was still receiving inheritance because he had, as far back as 1976, he had put it in a trust where every month from the elders, even after the elders have died and others have died, their children still get, it's unbelievable. So it's good that even now, many people don't know that this actually exists. So it's good that there are two tools which I've learned this morning. The will is the one that you write down. The other one is a trust where there's an institution that's actually helping you. So for going back to what Mariam said earlier, a regular Tom, you're just earning 100,000 naira a month. You have a wife, you have 2 kids. Do you do the will or do you do the trust? Which one is better? It's based on your financial capacity.
Based on your financial capacity, you can do both. Because the will simply says, these are my assets. When I pass away, this is how you then distribute and or manage the assets. However, a trust says, a trust is an advancement of a savings account with your bank. The difference is that your trust account names beneficiaries, your bank account names, let's say, your next of kin. And so
you'll be funding the trust, you'll be putting money every month.
You'll be putting money into the trust.
Okay.
So the funding of the trust, the funding of the trust depends entirely on you. So you can say that I want to keep 200 or 20,000 every month and build it up to what my intentions are. Your intentions in the long run might be that you want your kids to go to Harvard. So you start to save for their education.
So that's why they call them trust fund babies.
Thank you. Now, like you said, that trust can transcend generations. So you're looking at a dynasty arrangement. I can set up a trust today and say that that trust managed by FBN Quest Trustees will last the next 5 generations. That structure will be put in place. Every child knows what they get. Every grandchild knows what they get. And I can also structure it such that every single person that marries into the Obende family gets something.
We have to run out of time.
Just for clarity, for information. So I open an IBM Quest account now, and I start to deposit. I start to deposit into a trust.
Yeah, okay. That's all we can take.
Oh, yes.
If you have any more questions, directly go and meet them in their office.
Go to Quest.
We're going on a break. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.